Good morning from Saundersfoot in Wales from the 2022 World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals. My name's Sarah Cook and I'm joined today in the commentary box by Peter O'Hanlon, and we are so excited to bring you all of the action. We saw some cracking races yesterday, the first World Championship medals handed out, and we can't wait to see the remainder of the finals today, Pete.
Yeah, lots to look forward to in today's schedule. We're going to start by bringing you the last 8. That's what we refer to it when we get down to the quarterfinals, because we've had the time trials, the repêchages, and we're down to the last 8 competitors or boats in each of the classes. So there's a packed schedule from 10:30 local time here, and you'll see behind us that the conditions are slightly different to the last couple of days. We've now got a southerly wind, and that's going to be fighting against the ebb tide as the tide goes out through the course of the day, and that makes for some really spicy wave conditions. Much trickier than we've seen through the last couple of days, so it's going to be interesting to see how our elite athletes compete with that. So it's a packed schedule of racing. We're looking forward to telling you how all of those races unfold, and of course we go through the quarterfinals, immediately into the semi-finals, and immediately into the finals for all of the boat classes today. So we're going to see the World Rowing Beach Sprint Final champions crowned after every single boat class as we run through the programme. We've got an hour, 2 hours worth of racing this morning, and then a lunch break, and then we get underway again from 3 o'clock this afternoon until around 6:30 today. Lots to look forward to. Let's get underway with our programme.
And I'm joined this morning by Gwyn Batten, Chair of the World Rowing Coastal Rowing Commission. And Gwyn, we call you, I'm not sure if it's to your face, but the mother of coastal rowing, because really this has been your brainchild, and we'd love to pick your brain to, I guess, understand a bit more about what's going on, because it is a relatively new discipline. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of coastal rowing and specifically beach sprints?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say, it's nice to be called the mother, but I'm just standing on the shoulders of the guys that went before me. But yeah, so coastal rowing pretty much came out of France in the late 80s. And then in the emergence of the multi-sport beach games in around about 2015, we designed a format that we could link both the beach and the sea together. And what you have here is today is beach sprints, beach sprint finals. It's just a really exciting format of coming off the beach into the water, around the cans, and then back up onto the beach.
And exactly how difficult is it to row in one of these boats?
What I say to people is many clubs buy these boats for their beginners, and what we do to make it difficult is we make it a really high octane race, put the athletes under pressure, and we put them on a beach with some waves and some cans in to turn around. And I think that's the bits that makes it difficult. Getting into a boat, you could probably get into a boat about 2 hours of practice, you could have a pretty good race. You'd get round without falling in on a calm day.
So you're maybe not going to win the World Championship, but you could certainly get around the course, which is great. And I think that's one of the really exciting things about this discipline is the accessibility, lower barriers to entry for the sport, which I think is why it's appealing for many developing nations, particularly as a Commonwealth Games now and hopefully Olympic Games prospect.
Yeah, so really exciting for us. We designed it specifically for the beach games and multi-sport events, and we're working really hard to try and get into those. I mean, I think for me, the developing countries, what we've tried to do is keep the complexity, really cost and complexity down, so that in it, hopefully, my real ambition is that one of the small island nations hosts World Beach Sprint Finals one day. Within 10 years, if we can do that, I'd be a happy woman. Just because all you need is a beach, some boats, and some umpires. Oh, of course, and some athletes.
Importantly, the athletes, and we look forward to seeing them in action today. We'll now head over to Peter O'Hanlon on the beach.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm joined here by Slovenian Olympic champion Iztok Chop, and we wanted to have a quick look at what makes beach rowing and coastal rowing different, and particularly having a look at the boats. Iztok's here with Felipe, the exclusive boat sponsor for the 2022 World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals. Now, Iztok, what can you tell us about what makes these boats different compared to what we'd normally see at the Olympics?
Well, this is an ocean rowing boat, not a flat water rowing, so we are standing in front of the beach sprint double, which is shaped, designed to be fast as possible on this short course with a lot of turns. So we can see low bow, which enables easier, let's say, and safer landing on the beach. It allows boats to go through the wave or over the wave, and you see boat is very shallow. There's basically nothing in the boat, so that helps the water if you hit the wave or go through the wave to exit from the boat, and enables athletes to row to get faster back into the rhythm.
Now let's actually have a look at it. So down here we've got the bow of the boat. Now, Iztok, what is it that makes this bow special versus some of the other shaped bows that we see on coastal boats?
Yeah, we built two different bows. One facing forward, that is more like endurance, long distance rowing on ocean rowing, because it helps to steer in the waves. But this one helps much better at the beach landing. So it stops, it doesn't hit the sand, it stops slowly, and that helps athletes to exit the boat faster and safer, of course.
So running down the boat, we can see some of the obvious things you'd expect to see in a rowing boat: the gates, the riggers, the seats. Any particular comments about why this is shaped as it is in the center of the boat?
Yeah, okay, boat, as anybody can see, boat is much wider. Then that allows us to build, let's say, separate riggers. So when you row, it's similar feeling the backwing rigger on the flat water rowing, but it gives open space to the athletes, which is yet again faster and, most important, safer exit and entrance into the boat. You can see shoes are plastic, adjustable size for beach sprint, basically open, so you can easily put your feet into the shoes and then easy pull them out when you have to run for the finish. So this is it, and boat is very, very wide, very shallow, so that allows boat to turn very fast around the buoys, and like I said before, to serve the wave as much as possible.
Amazing. Iztok, thank you so much for giving us a walk through of the boat. This is the boat. Let's have a quick look at the course that it races down. So we can see over here, the key thing about the course is that it's made up of 3 buoys and the beach. So the athletes start up here on the beach, and on the sound of the buzzer, they come running down the beach to the surf, and they launch themselves here next to where the flags are into the boat, and then they'll go careering down the course towards the first buoy. It's a slalom on the way out, 250 metres towards the last buoy, sorry. They'll go on the right of the first buoy, left of the second buoy, an anti-clockwise spin around the furthest buoy, and then straight back into the beach. When they come into the beach, they'll then go sprinting up the beach to the finish buzzer, which is in the sand, and that's why we get such amazing and dramatic finishes to these beach sprint races, because they've got to dive to try and hit that buzzer before their opponent, because it's a side-by-side race, a knockout competition. Such exciting stuff, and we're about to get into the first race in just a few moments. So loads to look forward to here at the 2022 World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals. Let's jump straight back up to Sarah to get ready for that race.
Thanks, Pete. Great to see inside the boat and what that perspective looks like for the athletes, and importantly, the course that they're going to be covering in a few short moments' time. But this morning, we have some great racing up for you. We're going to start with the junior men's double scull. We'll have the quarterfinals followed by the semi-finals, and in quick succession, the B final for the bronze medal, and then the A final for the gold and the silver. We'll then move to the junior women's double, and we'll have the medal ceremonies of both of those events. As we can see here, the athletes up in that first quarterfinal between the Netherlands and France. And Pete, welcome back to the commentary box.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, good to see these guys getting ready into this first quarterfinal. Mixed men's doubles under 19s. We've got Zakaria Buzidaho, you can see on the right of this picture, getting ready to run down and join Louis Barbara, who's handling the boat. Owen Knowles here, he was racing the under 19 men's solo yesterday, knocked out by the Italian, I believe, in the first round, joined by Beer Florain, who's getting the boat situated in this picture here with the pink hat on. Owen Knowles, brave man, he treated himself to a full English breakfast this morning. I was sat on the table next to him chatting about the performance through the junior men's solo yesterday, and very, very ready for his competition here for the under 19 men's doubles. Lots to play for because, of course, this quarterfinals is knockout, as have been all of the repêchages previously, and if you don't make it through the time trials to the next round, you're out as well. But if you make it into the semis, then you will at least have another race to go, because you'll race either in the A final or the B final, and that's where we see the competition for medals.
So conditions a little bit different today, as we've already said, to yesterday. The sun has just disappeared behind the clouds. Bit of a breeze and a little bit more chop, a little bit less of those big rollers, but we did see them start to pop up throughout the session yesterday, so perhaps a bit later in the morning we might see a bit more of that rolling swell starting to come in, but pretty choppy out there. We likened it to a washing machine yesterday. Really tough conditions we've seen in the repêchages that have raced this morning. Some of the crews really struggling to get out past this little wave break, so it's going to take real decisiveness, really needing your boat handlers to be in control of the craft to ensure that the bow is pointing forward so that you can punch out through those waves and get down the course.
Yeah, particularly with this ebb tide that we're going to be experiencing through the rest of this morning's program of racing. The tide's going out directly in the opposite direction to the wind coming in a southerly direction this morning, so it's going to make some really dirty water and dirty wave formations out there that they'll have to contend with. So a couple of technical issues with one of the boats, so they're just making sure they get that sorted before we can get started in this first quarterfinal for the under-19 men's double. Looks like it's not the Dutch boat that the issue's with, therefore, because that's sitting there ready. So the French boat, I believe, is the one with the slight issue, a few people milling around to try and sort it out.
But we heard the call there from the umpire calling for both boats to hit the water, so we think that we're okay to get started now with those boats being moved down into the water by the boat handlers. And we are about a minute away from the start now. So the way that beach sprints works is what's called a pool boat model. So that means that all of the boats are provided by one boat builder. In this case, it is Felipe as the official boat provider. But athletes are able to bring their own oars.
Here we go then, underway with the first of the four quarterfinals for the under-19 men's double. This is Owen Knowles making his way down to join Beer Florijn, the youngest brother of the Florijn family. We had Caroline Florijn and Finn Florijn competing at the World Rowing Championships in Račice just a few weeks ago. Oh, a couple of missed strokes there for Louis Barbara in the stroke seat of the French boat. Let's see how they get underway. They're out in front, though. They're about a length and a half up on the Dutch already, coming up to the first slalom buoy. Yeah,
really tricky conditions. We saw the French losing their oar there, but managing to get it back. The Dutch also having a few struggles getting up past the wave break. So the French will be the first to arrive at the slalom marker, so with about a length's lead over the Dutch at this early stage in the race.
Yeah, they're really bouncing around a fair bit here. Great pictures we can see from our drone following right alongside. You can see there's just over a length to the French coming up towards the second slalom buoy, although from my live view here on the harbour wall, it looks as though the Dutch have actually made up some of that distance and they're going to pass the second slalom buoy similar sort of time. No steering issues as far as we can tell so far as they make their way now up towards the turning point. Slightly different conditions. Yesterday it was a major crosswind. Now they're going into a significant headwind. I wonder what that's going to do for how they tackle the turning point.
Yeah, yesterday we saw quite flat conditions. Although it was really windy, it was quite flat because of the wind direction. Today, really bouncy. And these are the conditions that the coastal rowers love. And we would expect that the coastal rowers who have experience in these conditions are really going to start to shine through with their skill set as the French really nail that mark rounding and get away from that turning point, but about a length ahead of the Dutch.
Oh, they absolutely smashed that, didn't they? I mean, they were around so quickly. And now they've got a couple of lengths. It's nearly 3 lengths already as they're already passing the second slalom buoy. I think it's more than 3 lengths now. They're really rocketing away. We'll see if they can get onto any swell on the way back in to really rocket boost their return to the beach. I think one thing yesterday, it was a strong crosswind, but it didn't have any chance to build up any waves. As you were saying, Sarah, it's quite flat conditions because it was relatively sheltered by the harbour wall. But now that it's a southerly wind, these waves really have built up.
This is such a good angle. I think it gives a really great understanding of exactly how difficult those conditions are. When you get that shot looking at the bow, you can see how big the waves are around the athletes. It's really, really tough conditions. And I think what the French are doing really well is they don't worry if they get a dirty stroke. They just keep going. They just keep getting the blades in. They keep moving and they stay together. And it's about trying to make as few mistakes as you can, really, in these conditions, and just to roll with the punches. So
coming into the beach here, I tell you what, I was quite nervous earlier watching some of the quads come in. One flipped on a junior double or an under-19 double, flipped on top of them, managed to break a rigger. Let's see how they handle the exit, because the surf's certainly growing. Fast exit for Bouzid Daho of France. I think that's a sure win for them. A great effort for Beer Florane trying to make his way up the beach, but there's 3 seconds separating them to the line.
So confirmation there. France winning the first of the quarterfinals in the under-19 men's double scull. The Dutch won't progress from here. All of these quarterfinals are knockout rounds. So the winner will progress to the semi-finals, and it is the end of the regatta for the losing crews.
I do love watching them make their beach landing. The waves growing slightly now that the ebbing tide starts to build a little bit of pace against the direction of the wind. Mentioned earlier, I saw a quad flip over, managed to break one of those riggers off that you can see on the bottom of that picture, snapped off entirely. Luckily, neither of the two under-19 women in the boat were injured. It did land on top of them though, so they might have a few bumps and scrapes to deal with, but no major issues. But it just shows that you've got to get that beach landing absolutely bang on. This is Alexander Joyner for Canada. He'll be sprinting down to join Beckett de la Siga in the Beckett de la Siga, I know why that name rings a bell. I believe it's Beckett de la Siga who's now at the top of the 250-metre challenge that is up on the harbour wall area, where they've got some ergos set up. And I think Beckett de la Siga.
Who did he beat,
Pete? Who did he beat? Who did he beat indeed? Well, I'm one of the people he beat. I was at the top for a short period, but Sarah, you are the reigning champion on the women's side of the table. I think you're still holding out there. Here we go then. Sprinting down the beach, over on the right-hand side of the picture, we've got Marcos Delgado Marquez joining Ricardo Gonzalez Bermudez. That's the Spanish combination up against these Canadians.
Great stuff from the Spanish there. Feet in and they are away. The Canadians just struggling through the wave break to get their timing together, but the Canadians are leading the Spanish here.
Yeah, it was a good start for Canada, definitely. I mean, they're about a length up. As they come up towards the first slalom buoy. I don't want to give anybody the commentator's curse, but I will say it. I haven't seen anybody get that first slalom buoy wrong in quite some time. I don't think anybody got a penalty yesterday for getting their navigation of the buoys wrong. So it just shows that compared to previous years where we've seen quite a few get that wrong, they've been really hotting up on their navigation and steering.
And we know that's a really important component of coastal rowing and of beach sprint, the navigational requirements. It's a really specific skill set, and the athletes are really challenged. And obviously, as the community is learning this discipline and becoming upskilled, we're not seeing as many of those mistakes. But see the bowman for Canada, I think maybe his seat's come off or something has happened here, because he's really not using his legs at all. So I'm not sure what has happened in the Canadian boat, but there seems to be some issues for the bowman.
He has a really short stroke, doesn't he? That was bizarre, because I thought for a moment they had a strategy of slightly shorter strokes overall, but you could see Alexander Joyner in the stroke seat.
I think he's trying to put his seat back on. Coming around the top mark here.
That's what's caused it. He was sliding on his bum on the deck. I think that will have, and now the stroke man, now Joyner's lost his seat. Oh, this is a technical disaster for the Canadians. I'll see them out now. Yeah. No sign of slowing, though, for the Spaniards, bearing in mind they'll be looking to try and set the fastest time they possibly can. Good navigation all round. I would have assumed they'd ease off slightly here just to try and save their legs.
It won't be long until they are required to front up for a semi-final. So when you're in this position, you do want to conserve, of course, get home safely, but wanting to conserve a little bit of energy. I guess it's hard, though, because anything can happen. You'd almost be reluctant to take your foot off the gas in case disaster struck.
What if
and
they
you
got a technical
caught a
problem?
crab or
Exactly.
sea came off or anything like that. So you never really get the opportunity to rest in these races.
Well, he's still giving it great gas up the beach here. Brave effort. Ooh.
Ooh.
It's like he's in a mad dash for a near draw, but great performance, sub 3 minutes, and he looks disappointed, if anything. I guess they'll be taking some learnings away perhaps for their next round, but at least they're through. A good run up for De La Ciega of Canada, but that's competition over for the Canadians. A great performance to get into the last 8.
It just goes to show you it's not over until it's over here.
Lining up already to get started in the next race. Gary Rott for the USA. He'll run down to join Malachi Anderson. Just having a quick look at the recap here. Can we see the issue for the bowman?
So I think they've come over a wave here. We've got a bit of a slow-mo shot. So perhaps he's come over a wave here and his seat has popped off, which is unusual. I don't know that I've seen that happen in that situation before. Oh, he's pounding that buzzer into the sand, isn't he?
We've seen all of the under-19s doing that. I think they've been told, keep hitting that buzzer, make sure you stop the clock. I won't go into too much detail, but there have been a few known moments where those buzzers don't always clock the time. So I think that the under-19s have been really, really viciously keen to make sure that it absolutely stops when they're there. Here, though, we can see Malachi Anderson on the left of the picture alongside Aidan Carney for Ireland. Carney will be joining Shane Rafferty down at the boat, and Anderson will join Gary Rott at the USA boat.
Put your boat on the water. 1 minute.
Aidan Carney only started coastal rowing 5 months ago at the Irish Trials at their beach sprint qualifiers in Dunedin Beach County, Cork. 1 month more than his partner, Shane Rafferty, only started 4.5 months ago at those same qualifiers. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on without too much coastal rowing experience. The Americans a little bit more experienced. We know that Gary Rott went to the Copa America Coastals in Peru earlier this year and medalled there as well.
Attention. Go.
Ooh.
Quick sprint from the Irishman, absolutely rapid. Let's see how they get their first couple of strokes underway. A couple of waves rolling in at the same time makes it nice and interesting.
And the rules require that the crew members cannot get into the boat until that buzzer goes. So the crewmate stands. As soon as they get in, get ready to go. So we see these two boats locked together here, both through the wave break as they're coming up to the first slalom marker. Both bows locked together.
Yeah, nothing to separate them at this stage. I think the Irish look like they've got a slightly smoother rhythm. Just as I say it, though, they have a few tricky strokes. Yeah, quite a few tricky strokes. They're really struggling with the wave formations now. And that's opening the door for the Americans to open up a margin. They've got just over a length as we see the Irish steering affected. They're going slightly too far to the left of the second slalom buoy. Well corrected here now, though. You can see that they're just going to hit it with their rigger, I think. Aggressive line in the end.
Yeah, perhaps on that side of the course it looks a little messier, a little choppier, a bit more difficult on that side of the course.
Well, the Americans are going to get to the turning point just, at the same time. So I thought that the Irish had lost their advantage there.
Oh, and
The
a
Americans
nice,
going very wide.
yeah, nice tight circle there from the Irish.
I mentioned earlier that Gary Rott had competed at the Copa American Coastals in Peru earlier this year in April. He medalled in the under-19 men's quad and in the under-19 men's double. So he's certainly familiar with this boat. He's now joined by Malachi Anderson. So we'll see how they're performing here. The Irish have opened up a lead, though. It's about a length and a half coming up between the second and the first slalom boys. We'll see whether they can hold it as the swell. The Irish have gotten onto a wave. Can they hold on to it, though? I think, yeah, it's actually upset them. I think their slight inexperience at the coastal discipline might have meant that they just couldn't quite handle holding onto that surf, and that's opened the door for the Americans to now move through to a length up.
Irish just getting another little wave there. So, and now the Americans upset by one as well. So it's really tough. Although you do want to catch a wave because it absolutely gives you that speed, it makes the boat really difficult to control.
That's where the experience and the skill, the coastal skill set. Oh, they nearly tipped in there. Ireland, tricky stuff. He's off his seat as well, just to add to the difficulty. It's disaster for Ireland in the last 100 metres there. Just such hard work competing with the waves. We see Gary Rott, though, out of the boat already, making his way up the beach. This is going to be victory for the USA, progressing through to the semi-final. A great effort from Ireland. There was a moment there that they had that wave and they looked like they'd surf it well, but just not quite enough to hold it together all the way up into the beach.
What a shame. As they were coming to that final mark, I thought, here we go, we've got the two boats locked together. It's going to be a race all the way into the beach, but absolute disaster there for the Irish. USA taking out that third quarterfinal of the under-19 men's double scull.
Yeah, look at this. They went very wide, the USA, on that turn, but and that opened the door to the Irish lead, which just was sadly lost because that wave looked like a tricky one to ride in. You can see at the top of this picture here, Ireland just trying to recover from it and allowing the USA to motor past them. So the USA will face either Italy or Great Britain in the semi-final, and we'll find out which one based on this quarterfinal that is just lining up now. Boats have been entered into the water, so we're less than a minute away from the start here. We'll have Italy's Matteo Palazzo and Nicola Sentonze alongside Great Britain's Robert Collin and James Purves Liddell.
Attention, go!
Purves Liddell of Durham School Boat Club doing the rundown alongside the Italian. Very fast start for Italy.
And Italy away first. They've got to punch through this little breeze and little wave. Whoa! In the bow seat there. That was Sentonze. He's just lost his oar, but getting back into it now. But look at this start from Britain, absolutely firing out through that wave break and in fact getting themselves into an advantage. And another issue for Italy.
Yeah, Robert Collin constantly looking over his shoulder to make sure he gets that steering right. He's here from Queen Elizabeth High School and Tyne Amateur Rowing Club. They've got past that first of the slalom boys. They've got 2.5, nearly 3 lengths up on Italy now, who are finding their pace and trying to get back into the action. Matteo Palazzo and Nicola Sentonze. It's just, you just can't pick a winner at this stage because they're struggling so desperately with these tricky wave formations. Good navigation around the second slalom boy. Robert Collin really doing his best to keep an absolutely keen and focused eye on their navigation.
It just looks so much fun. I'm jealous sitting here, Pete,
Me
in the
too.
commentary box because these are real coastal conditions. And you can see here on the Brits, you can see as they come over those waves, the boat really bouncing and punching through those waves. And for anyone who hasn't given this a go, it really is so much fun. You've got to get out there.
Let's see how they do this. Do they hammer in there? Oh, this is
It's
a very wide.
wide.
I cannot believe that. They're a little bit late on putting the anchor in on the inside of the bend. That's allowed Italy to close the gap down now. And let's see whether it opens back out to more than a length.
Wow, great turn there from Italy. They've made up about 3 lengths of distance just with nailing that turn. The British were they looked a little bit slow, and perhaps they felt that, they haven't had enough of an advantage, that they weren't under pressure, and that just allowed Italy to come through the door and get back into it.
I think Italy might have pulled into the lead here as well, coming into the last 150 before the beach. It looks like they're in front of Great Britain now. So that amazing turn, it's so funny how we were looking at a 4-length deficit. Now I think they've got a length and a half advantage over Great Britain, passing the first of the slalom boys. Deceptive angles here. So we're looking out of our cabin, and it's pretty level actually. There's less than a length in it. I think Italy just a nose in front.
Yeah, I think the British got a little runner there, which brought them sort of back to level with the Italians. The Italians maybe just with a canvas over the British combination as they're both coming into the beach. This is going to come down to the final sprint.
It is. The Italians overrating Great Britain. Let's see. It's going to be Sentonze or Collin up the beach. Who's going to get out first? Rob Collin gets out first. Sentonze, the Italian, on our picture here. They're sprinting up round their flags. It's going to come down to the buzzer. I think Rob Collin's going to get there just ahead of the Italian. It is Great Britain. That was closer than I would have expected based on that beach landing. Goodness me.
But I think it's really hard when you're in the boat to know how shallow the water is and when you should jump out, because the boat is happy to go all the way up to the beach, but actually it's quite shallow, and once you get onto your feet, it's a lot quicker than rowing through that bit of mess. So there's almost some benefit in knowing the exact moment when you want to get out, jumping out, leaving the boat to your teammate and your boat handler, and just getting on the beach and getting that sprint, which I think is what the British did really well there.
It really is a confidence question, isn't it? Are you confident enough that you're not going to jump out and find yourself neck deep in the water? Because if you do, well, let's face it, swimming is the slowest of the disciplines that we could have here. I mean, you wouldn't be disqualified if you found yourself swimming the last 10 metres, but you'd certainly be slowest and you'd be out anyway. So I think it's that confidence to know that you're not going to be more than waist deep and you can move more quickly. And Rob Collin, I think he was the first one to decide to go, and that paid off in the end because there really was nothing separating them. So we've got a quick chat, so we're going to go down to the beach and join Camilla.
Well, I'm here with our semi-finalists in the under-19 men's double sculls, France and Spain. Firstly, Louis Barbara, what is the most challenging thing about the conditions out there today?
There's no problem with conditions. I think just the pressure is here, but I have no problem. I'm trained with in these conditions, so no problem.
No problem at all. And for you, Spain, Ricardo Gonzalez Bermudez, what is it that you're going to do out here in this semi-final? Anything different?
It's probably condition, but it's a very race, and very.
So nothing different, they're just going to go out there. Well, we've got this next matchup, the semi-final between France and Spain in the under-19 men's doubles.
Thanks, Camilla. I tell you what, that was a hell of a poker face we saw from the Frenchman there, saying we love these conditions, absolutely showing that he's looking forward to it. But I bet there are a few nerves behind the scenes there, because everybody has just watched all of the quarterfinalists race just now, and I didn't see a single boat find it as easy as I think some of them might have hoped it to have been. Everybody had a little bit of a struggle at some point through that race, through their races, through all those quarters.
And it's so cool. It's such a different aspect to the sport of rowing to be able to have a camera in the face and a microphone in the face of the competitors and to see those tactics beforehand. It's almost like a boxing match, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So for their second time in the last 20 minutes or so, we've got Louis Barbara heading down to join Zakaria Bouzid Daho, and we've got Ricardo Gonzalez Bermudez joining Marcos Delgado Marquez. See how they get started. Oh, big wave building behind them. Is it going to wash them out? We've seen quite a few technical difficulties staying on seats so far just in these quarterfinals. The French off to the best of the starts, though. I think they've got about a length up already on Spain.
French look really composed. I think they're looking really strong coming into this first mark here. They're nice and together. Ooh, have they gone? Oh, yes, they've gone the correct side of that. Apologies, a little bit of a...
It was close, though, wasn't it? I mean, they were the confident line.
Oh, no, he's off his seat.
Disaster. I don't believe it. They were looking so good. Are they recovered? Yeah, they were just looking so well composed for a moment there.
So tough. I mean, the Spanish also had a little bit of an issue there and stopped as well, so I don't think the margins have changed. It's still the French in the lead, but anything can happen.
Yeah, goodness me. They're certainly taking the more aggressive line, really looking to hit those slalom boys down with their riggers. The Spaniards going wide, which of course adds to distance, but a safer option because you can lose your blade or lose a few strokes if you get it wrong. French are going to make it to the turning point first. Let's see what approach they take to it, how aggressive they go for it. Based on their line, I'm going to guess it's going to be quite an aggressive close-up grounding of the turning point.
Yeah, turning right on the mark there. Wow, really aggressive turn from both crews. The Spanish getting around. Well, look at the desperation. And this is the hard thing because you've got these boat handling crunch points, whether it's the mark rounding or getting in and out of the boat. You've sort of got to get the balance right between keeping the tempo up and just getting around, but also being composed enough that you're not just thrashing and being ineffective with what you're doing.
And it can so look like that, can't it? Because now that we're seeing wave depths of 1.5 feet that they're competing with out there, they can look to put the blade in the water, find that the water's not there because they've reached a trough, and then they just move in air.
So the French just got on a little wave there, but we saw their boat spin out from underneath them. So really tricky conditions and really hard with these boats to stay on the wave if you're not dead straight on it. We saw there that the Spanish just got themselves into maybe a boat length lead over the French as they're coming past that final marker.
Yeah, here we go. Spain a length up as they come into the last 50 metres before the beach. We're going to see how they handle the dismount. It'll be the bowman in each boat making their way up the beach. So for Spain, that's Marcos Delgado Marquez. They've got a length or so advantage. Is he going to be confident enough to get out early and start making his way up the beach? Last stroke, how does he handle this? Still a lot of boat speed on it, I think.
Oh, the French are out.
They're pretty level. He's going to come down to a dive on the buzzer, I think. The Spaniard might be just ahead.
Wow.
Look at that, under a second. 0.8 or so of a second separating Spain and France. And despite a relatively slow start compared to the French, Spain's turn, I think, won them that. They were just a little bit quicker, and then they managed to hold that pace and get a few swells on the way back in.
I love the sportsmanship and the comradeship that's coming out of this discipline as this coastal community really builds. You see the competitors helping each other up out of the sand, giving each other a hug or a high five, win, lose or draw. It's really lovely to see that community starting to build.
They'll feel a lot of confidence after that because Spain were 5th in the time trial. France were the fastest in the time trial. France were the fastest in the time trial, which meant they went straight in to the next round. Spain had to go through the repechage where they beat Peru by quite a significant margin, but they did have to go through the repechage, and then they faced Canada. The Canadians had beaten them in the time trial as well, so they're the real underdogs on this side of the tournament bracket. And they now find themselves in the A final, which means that they're going to be going home with some metalware. They'll be chuffed to bits with that. It'll be gold or silver determined by that A final. France will go to the B final, where they'll have to battle it out for the bronze. And we'll know which crews will be facing Spain and France in the A and B finals, because next up we've got the second semi-final. USA's Gary Rott and Malachi Anderson against Great Britain's Rob Collin and James Purves Liddell. And hopefully we'll hear from them down on the beach in just a moment.
I'm here with Malachi Anderson of the USA Under-19 men's double that's about to go in the semi-final for a chance at making the A final, the gold medal final. Malachi, it looked really challenging out there. We've seen quite a few people coming off seats and things. Is this something that you've trained for?
Yeah. My team and I have been training in Barcelona and Ireland for the past month, trying to prepare for these conditions. They're just insane to row in compared to my flatwater history and everything. It's been a real challenge to change my technique out there.
Wonderful. And I mean, for all of those out there, it would be great for you just to describe, the differences between that flat water and the coastal stuff that you're doing now.
Yep, you really have to be on your toes because something can change at any moment. Someone or a wave can throw you sideways. Any little thing is going to mess you up. The ocean is against you in this sport.
The ocean is against you. That sounds very ominous, but best of luck there to the Team USA going head-to-head with Great Britain in this next semi-final of the Under-19 men's double sculls.
Thanks, Camilla. Good to hear from Malachi Anderson, making sure that the hair definitely won't get in front of his eyes on this course. He's going to be joining Gary Rott, who we were talking about earlier for the USA combination. Gary raced at the Copa America Coastal competition in Peru in April earlier this year, where he medaled in the Under-19 men's quad and the Under-19 men's double. So impressive stuff for Gary. But it's Malachi Anderson who makes the beach sprint alongside James Purves Liddell.
Get ready. Attention. Go.
There we go, and it's both of these crews will have another race after this. It just depends whether they'll be in the A final or the B final, and whether they're certain of a medal. Winner of this race, certain of a medal. Let's see how they get the boat up to speed. Much quicker for the American combination. They're a length up already.
Wow, what a start there for the Americans. So aggressive. They were really focused on just getting through those waves together, weren't they? And they've really pushed out to about a 2-length lead here as they come through the first marker. But we know that a lot will unfold over this 500-metre track. So anything can happen, but sitting just clear. Oh, disaster for the British. Off the seat. That's the bowman in the British boat, Robert Collin, who has come off his seat. And I think, in fact, his seat has come off the track. Disaster.
Yes, absolute disaster. They've had to both stop rowing so that you can sort it out. But it's opened up a good 30, 40, probably more than that now, 50 metres as the USA continue to row away from them. I think they've realised that that's most likely race over. I mean, we said this nearly with the Italians in the previous race when they were up against Great Britain, but they came back and nearly won. So we'll see what happens now as we see the USA already at the turning point.
Yeah, it looks like for the USA, they've been able just to relax a little bit here. You can never really relax fully, as we've said. You want to keep that lead that they've worked hard for, but able to take their foot off the gas, which will help them as they're almost certainly going to progress to the final against Spain very shortly.
Yeah, tricky stuff. They've gone a little bit wide on this turning point as well. We can see here many of the other crews going far more aggressive, close to, and then they've hit it with the blades. This is not the ideal race for Great Britain, but they will have another opportunity to try and take home some metalware, because at this stage it looks like they're destined for the B final, where they'd face France. And the USA look like they're riding a wave here.
Yeah, the USA on that little travelator, grabbing a little runner into the beach, and we are starting to see a little bit of a rolling swell come into the beach, which is nice. It's what you want to get on, but you've got to be able to control the boat, because otherwise it starts to slew and you're at risk of the boat then turning sideways onto the wave, which is almost certain disaster and will likely end with the boat up on top of you. So really important when you're catching these waves to keep the boat straight. But the US really have taken the foot off the gas here. They're nice and relaxed coming in. They know in a few minutes' time they're going to have an A final and a shot at a gold medal, and they're very comfortably ahead of the British.
And they've timed that rather well. They're just riding between a couple of waves there. So that means that they're less likely to have any steering issues on the way in, which just upsets your dismount. And getting out in clean order, Gary Rott jogging his way up the beach, making sure that he conserves some energy for the next round. He may as well walk, because time is of no matter in this semi-final. There hits the buzzer, and that secures the USA their place in that A final, where they'll face Spain in the contest for the gold and silver. Great Britain will go on to face France, and their last opportunity to try and get a medal, which would be the bronze if they can manage it. But what a performance from the USA. Clock's still running there. I think that we'll see the graphic stop in a moment, but we know that the USA will go through to that A final. So Great Britain will have but a few moments pause, because they're straight in to the very next race. We can see the highlight here of just where the USA were able to row away from Great Britain, while Rob Collin tried to sort out the seat issue with these rollers coming in, and the fact that it's an ebb tide against a southerly, which is a direct headwind, just makes for some really bouncy waves. That means that as they come up and the boat goes down, their bum leaves the seat, and that just creates so many difficult and disastrous opportunities for the seat to either move away or come off the runners entirely. And I think that's what cost Great Britain their semi-final. They do have another chance. They'll go through and face France to race it out for the bronze in the very next race, which is what makes this such a fun and challenging para endurance event, because all of the quarterfinals are immediately followed by the semis, immediately followed by the finals. So whilst they're only racing 500 meters, the fact that they do 3 races in such close succession makes it a real endurance format of our sport of rowing. So a couple of minutes time, we'll see Great Britain back on the starting line. We'll see James Purves-Liddell lining up alongside Louis Barbara for France.
So in about 4 minutes' time, we look forward to an interview. For now, there's just about 4-5 minute break while we're getting set up for the next round of racing. So we look forward to bringing you that interview in a few moments' time. Don't go anywhere.
Under 19 men's double scull final B. France, lane 1. Great Britain, lane 2. 3 minutes.
Well, I'm here with James Purvis Liddell, who will be taking place in the bronze medal match as part of the Great Britain under-19 men's double. Now, James, you've literally just raced in that last semi-final. How do you go about recovering in these kind of circumstances?
Well, yeah, it's quite a lot different to how we normally do it. So I think just sat down really and just kind of pray for the best. You know, there's not much time to do anything else, is there?
It's very true. Sitting down definitely will help. And is there any changes that you're going to be looking to make following your semi-final?
Well, we've just stick to the plan of get to the buoy, focus on yourself, and then once you're round, that's when you can start looking over. You start trying to whip it back. As you know, I'm sure most people are seeing you at the mercy of the conditions to an extent. So you just kind of not worry about it. Just try and relax, really.
Wonderful stuff. Well, look, with a bronze medal on the line, we'll be looking out for that head-to-head race between yourselves and France. Best of luck for this final.
Great to hear from James Purvis Liddell of Great Britain. He's the sprinter, the one who starts off the race. They had a good quarter-final. I think just too much of a challenging semi-final technically. Not necessarily their fault, because it's one of those things where you can have a technical mishap and it just upsets the race, but that's sport for you. So they're going through to the B final, and good to hear some positive words from James there, because they'll be racing against France, who are the winners of the time trial. Fastest boat that we've seen on our course, only by 200ths of a second faster than the USA, who are racing in the A final shortly after this. Great Britain have had the shortest of the breaks, because that's the nature of this. If you're in the second semi and you head to the B final, that means you're racing in the very next race. So it's a quick bounce, only 7 minutes to recover, try and move some of that lactic out of the legs, get over some of the fatigue, and get ready to do it all over again. Brave effort for Great Britain. Rob Collin, he's been doing most of the steering, and they've had some great lines that they've been following. Important thing now will just be to make sure they keep bum on seat. Bronze medal is up for grabs, or going home just without any metalware, but at least placing 4th as a minimum from this World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals Championship rankings.
Attention. Go.
Interesting tactic there. Looking across to see the flag drop, because of course that's going to be more reliable. Certainly what I would be doing, looking to see when the flag drops as opposed to listening for that buzzer, but maybe the Frenchman just getting the slightest of starts away from the British. But wow, what a start for the French as they punch out through those really tough waves, hitting them. Oh, and the Frenchman's come off his seat.
Quickly recovered though, but that has seen their lead diminished to nothing. They're neck and neck as they come up towards the first slalom buoy. Let's see how they handle passing it. Is it going to upset their blade work? Perhaps one missed stroke. That's opened the door for Great Britain, who now I think have just half a length or so up. But these margins mean nothing, because the lead can turn over the course of 4 or 5 lengths oh so quickly.
So a great row here from the British, leading probably the favoured French crew in this race. French were the time trial winners. Really struggling with these bouncy conditions here. They're just getting hit by wave after wave. The British perhaps moving out to about a boat length lead.
Yeah, we've seen them just take the turning point so wide though, opening up the door to the opposition to come through. So let's see how they handle it this time around. Are they going to go more aggressive? And they tried to. They've still gone quite wide there. Look how much tighter France are going, but I think the French might get tangled up here. Great Britain opting for the safer route, and they have gotten tangled up. That sees them lose a couple of strokes there. So Great Britain, oh no, this is disaster. I think that was a wave that spun them around a bit there.
Side onto the wave there, which, as you can see, that's exactly what happens if you're not dead straight with the wave. It pushes you completely sideways, and that's what's happened to the British. They've lost that lead.
Well, it's a dash now back to the beach. Who's going to be brave and get out of the boat first? And can they keep straight? Now the rollers are really coming in. They're going with the wind now, but you can see just how tricky the wave formations are. It's a question of experience and skill to handle those changing and rolling wave conditions and try to take as much benefit from them as you can without getting dismantled or spun round whatsoever.
And the French have been pushed quite wide. They're quite away off their track. So that's going to give them a longer run into the beach. So they're going to need to point their bow back in. And in fact, I think the French are on a little runner here. We can hear the chanting coming from the beach. They have got a runner in there catching the British. This is going to come down to the landing and the sprint.
Rob Collin is going to be getting out and running alongside the Frenchman Zakaria Bouzid, who's out of the boat already. It's down to the sprint. Rob Collin looks to be out in front for Great Britain. I think it's going to come down to a dive on the buzzer. Who's going to get there first? Oh, it was so close. Look at that. 1.2 seconds or so in it. Oh, that was a close one. But it looks as though Great Britain have stolen themselves the bronze medal there ahead of France. What was, I think, the most exciting sprint finish of the day so far. Pleased with that performance, the British coaches, but it came down to a dive on the line. That's why we like the beach sprints, that dive for the buzzer at the finish.
Exhausted, look at them. This is so tough, race after race, only minutes apart, literally, between each of the rounds.
Show that their stamina and training has paid off for Great Britain, because as I'd said earlier, they raced in the second semi-final. That means that they're straight in to the very next race, which was their B final. And they've done enough to get the bronze. It looked like there were a few touch and go moments looking here at the start. The French made the best of it. A much more aggressive line continually rode by France. I don't think that necessarily paid off at the turning point. It paid off in the previous rounds for them, but they got a little bit tangled in the turning point. Great Britain continued to opt for the safer route. Look at this, they've gone much wider around the turning point. France taking the more aggressive line, which paid off previously, except for in this race where they got a little bit tangled up. And then this is France on the crest of a wave, getting a little bit of a turbocharge to their speed back in towards the beach. But Great Britain sprint to the line there. Love this camera angle. It looked like less than a second there, but the final time was Great Britain 1.2 seconds up on France for the bronze. In a moment, though, we're going to move on to the A final, where we're going to see Spain line up alongside the USA. And we'll go down to Camilla, who's going to have a chat with one of our Spanish athletes.
Well, I'm here with our two finalists now, going head-to-head for the gold medal in the under-19 men's double sculls. Malachi, we spoke to you just a moment ago. How are you feeling on the run-up to this gold medal matchup?
I'm feeling great. This is a dream.
Absolutely amazing, and so much support here from the USA. And Ricardo, how have you recovered post-semi-final?
We are going to try to good race. Okay.
Amazing stuff. Well, look, a gold medal up for grabs here between the USA and Spain in this, the under-19 men's double scull gold medal final.
Thank you.
I love that. Good effort from the Spaniard there, just telling us what he's going to do. And it's so tricky, isn't it? I mean, I can't imagine trying to talk in a second language just before I'm going into an A final race at World Rowing Championship final like this beach sprint here. So good to hear from him and the American Malachi Anderson, who starts off the run. But a couple of minutes until we start this A final, we'll find out who's going to be the 2022 World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals champion in the under-19 men's double. 1 minute to go. We heard from the starting umpire.
Final one, the gold medal final in the under-19 men's double sculls. In lane 1, representing Spain, we've got Marcos Salgado Lopez and Ricardo Gonzalez-Ruiz. And in lane number 2, we've got the USA.
60-kilo boats that they race in. Requires a few of them to carry them down to the water. See just how wide they are. They've been designed, as we were hearing from Istok Chok, specifically to be able to spin more quickly.
Ready.
It makes them so much harder to keep in a straight line.
Attention, go!
As we're away now in the gold medal matchup between the USA and Spain in the under-19 men's double scull. Little fumble there from the American. It's Malachi Anderson in the stroke seat as he was trying to get in. Spain are punching through those waves, but the Americans with the early race lead.
Yeah, it's interesting this, isn't it? The Americans have got great boat speed because they're just managing to get cleaner strokes. Every single stroke seems to be connecting well. I don't want to jinx them, but it's just really working out well for them. Slightly less stable in the Spanish boat, but they've got a higher rating over in the Spanish boat, and that's seeing them keep terms with the USA. So clean past the first slalom buoy. Let's see how they handle navigation onto the second.
Really tough conditions out there. The Spanish getting belted by wave after wave there, but the Americans are at the second slalom marker now, some 3 lengths clear of the Spanish, and it's all going to come down to this mark rounding at the top of the course. Can the Americans get round, or will the Spanish make up this distance with a tight turn?
Well, Spain up at 42 strokes a minute, the USA at 36, so significant difference in their rates of striking. They're passing the turning point now. Let's see how the USA get round it first. They've approached it first, a little bit wide compared to the Spanish line.
A bit wide, but clear. They're well clear. The Spanish were nice and tight, but they did get a little tangled up on that mark. So I think the Americans still with a narrow lead, but the Spanish have really made up some distance with that turn.
They really have. Now it's all about how they handle riding the waves back into the beach. This is the A final. A lot of support for the US of A on the beach here, but I think the Spaniards have moved up into the lead. They're handling the trickier conditions a little bit better on the return leg. Let's see where they come in towards the beach. They've got a length or two up on the USA now as they come up back towards the first slalom buoy. Ooh, just getting pivoted round the USA. That could be race over for them. Look at that, and the blade trapped in the water. Disaster for them, just getting spun around. You can see the waves aren't coming in directly onto the beach. They've got a slight angle to them, which makes them that much harder to ride.
The Spanish have just expertly handled this run in. The Americans just coming unstuck with a little runner. It's so hard once you feel the boat picking up speed and you're not straight. There's just nothing you can do to correct it. It really just spins the boat out of control.
Look at this though, Spain are going to make landfall first, and let's see how they handle the dismount, jumping out of the bow seat. Great performance. We've got Marcos Delgado Marquez making his way up the beach. He knows they've got it. He knows they've got the gold medal and the championship title for 2022. He hits the buzzer. He can't believe it. A great performance from them. That's gold to Spain, and that means we'll see the USA. Here comes Gary Rott coming up to press the buzzer, securing the silver medal and second place in the rankings for the USA in the under-19 men's double. A fantastic performance from both crews. I think the USA would have been in for a closer competition had that wave not upset their steering on the way back up to the beach. But that's sport for you, and particularly that's coastal rowing for you.
And what a championship the Spanish team is having. We saw their success yesterday in the mixed cox squad and in the mixed double scull, and now taking the under-19 men's double scull.
Well, what a way to start the day. You know, we're here on the last day of racing at the World Rowing Coastal Championships and Beach Sprint Finals. We had the Coastal Championships last weekend, into these beach sprints this weekend, and it's the last day. We've got just 4 boat classes left, 4 more A finals to look forward to as we move now from the under-19 men's solo, under-19 men's double to the under-19 women's double up next. So 4 quarterfinals to look forward to, and just 3 medals to compete for. That's why we call this the last 8 crews competing in these 4 quarterfinals. There we hear the 1-minute announcement from the umpire. So we're jumping straight in quick order to the first of the 4 quarterfinals, where we'll see in this race Annalise Hall and Annalie Duncombe from the USA line up alongside Yatsuzuka Sasa and Yamashita Miyuki for Japan. The USA the fastest in the time trials for the under-19 women's double. They set a 2:45.79. Japan 8th. That's how the process works. You line up the fastest with the slowest of the 8 that progressed from the time trial. That's why we've got the USA lining up alongside Japan. So you'd expect the USA to do well, but with the tricky conditions we've seen through the course of racing so far this morning, it really is anyone's guess, because just the technical difficulty, staying on seat being so challenging. I mean, Sarah, what would you do? I'd be putting all sorts of glue or sticky tape on the seat just to keep my bum on it.
I'm not sure that gluing yourself to the seat would be the most comfortable or effective strategy, but
certainly not if I'm trying to get out and sprint for the end. That's
yeah,
right.
exactly. The seat might be coming with you on the run. But we've got a bit of a boat issue, a technical issue with the Japanese boat, so we're just waiting for that to be resolved. So we can see the boat for the USA is in the water, but the boat for Japan is not yet in the water. So just dealing with a couple of issues there before we get this race underway. But Team Japan, in the repechage, they came 8th in the time trial, and in the repechage they defeated Ireland to come through to meet the time trial winners from the USA. And that's the USA boat coming into the water now.
Both boats already in the water, so we're going to see here. Oh, that was a long and challenging pause to have to deal with. Anticipation high as we get started with the quarterfinals for the under-19 women's doubles. Let's see how the USA get themselves situated. It's a good start. We saw Annalie Duncombe making the run down the beach alongside Yamashita Miyuki for Japan. Those two boats now up to speed. The USA perhaps a smidgen ahead. See how they handle their navigation towards the first slalom buoy.
Yeah, the USA were really quick off the beach there. They're getting pounded by a couple of waves there. And in fact, the bow woman from the USA has come off her seat. She's back on now and they're up and moving again, but that's just allowed for the Japanese crew to draw level.
Yeah, there's not much separating them at this stage, is there? I mean, and just looking at the angle of attack for the USA, I think they were pivoted round, pointed towards the Japanese boat for a moment. They've had to recover that and adjust back on course towards the second slalom buoy. I think they're the more powerful combination of the two boats, the USA here, because when they get their boat up to speed and they get a clean rhythm, they pull away from Japan. But Japan just having a little bit of a tidier race, I'd say, in terms of the line that they're taking. The USA getting a little bit tangled up and then a wave pushing them off course again. Such challenging conditions as this ebbing tide gathers pace against the head-on southerly wind we're experiencing here in Pembrokeshire on the Saundersfoot beach. But that's what coastal rowing is all about. Very different to yesterday. We can see the rollers coming in as a sort of crosshead direction, which is very different to what we had yesterday, which was a direct crosswind from the opposite side here in Saundersfoot. Now the turn, Japan taking it very, very tight. The USA a little bit wider, giving them an opportunity for a cleaner rounding of the turning mark. Let's see how they handle getting the boat back up to speed. We were saying yesterday that when you have rounded the turn, your boat has basically got no momentum. So it's like doing a max effort deadlift to try and get the boat back up to speed. When you've already done a 250-meter sprint, we know what that's like, Sarah, after our little effort yesterday at the Ergo tent here. It's certainly going to burn out your legs.
Both crews there just collecting that slalom marker as they came past it. More or less level as they come down to the last 150 metres or so.
It's tricky, my heart's in my throat. Every time I see a bow piercing into the water, that lets you know that the stern is up. And if it's riding a wave and they're going straight, great. But if it's not, that's the danger zone where we've seen them pivot round, lose direction, and race-ending stuff.
And the Americans got a nice little runner there, which just pushed them into a length lead. So it is amazing the difference it can make when you can effectively ride these waves And here are the Americans. They're on a beautiful wave coming into the beach. Absolutely nailed it. And you can see they've just been propelled away from the Japanese.
Annelies Hull making her way up the sand here. Domination for the USA in what was a level race up until the last 50 metres on the water. That means Annelies Hull and Anneli Duncan for the USA take the win in this first quarterfinal for the under-19 women's double. They secure their first spot, first of the 4 spots into the semis.
Amazing job.
It's tense, this stuff, isn't it, Sarah? I mean, I thought that Japan were having a slightly cleaner race, but I think they just got bogged down between waves in the last 50 metres, where the USA were able to take advantage of a runner or two on the way into the beach, and that just saw their boat speed that little bit better. And I think they had a 2 or 3 length advantage from just 50 metres of getting the waves right.
Oh, we saw there one of the American crew just losing a handle and grabbing it expertly. So amazing that that didn't knock them off from what they were doing. But they really nailed the run in. It was pretty well textbook riding
Look at
those
that
waves.
exit. Yeah, absolutely perfect exit by Annelies Hull of the USA. She timed that to perfection and she found her feet quickly. No stumbling for her. That'll stand them in good stead going into the semis.
As we get ready here for the second quarterfinal in the under-19 women's double scull. Duggan and Sati from Canada and Roma and Bunshu from Germany. We're hearing that there's a slight issue here with the German boat, so it's like they're just correcting an issue maybe with a foot stretcher there. The Canadian boat is ready to go in the water, so we're just awaiting the final adjustments to the German boat.
Winner of this will go on to face the USA in the first of the 2 semi-finals for this category, and that means they're into the final 4. We go from the last 8 down to the final 4. When you're in that final 4, odds are you could well come away with some medalware, because there's 3 medals for those final 4 crews. And of course it does mean that you've got 2 races left, because you've got your semi-final and then your A or B final to look forward to.
Shout out to the team from the UK who have been working so hard all week at the World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals.
Hopefully they'll sort out this issue with the German boat in quick order. We saw Monica Bunshu racing yesterday in the under-19 women's solo. She's doubling up here by racing in the under-19 women's double, joined now by Alyssa Roma. Bunshu doing the running though. She'll be doing the sprint down, and then we'll see Alyssa Roma, who is in the bow seat of the German boat, doing the running back up. Canada's Alexandra Duggan, she doubled up as well. She's in the bow seat for the Canada boat, so we'll see her holding the boat and then doing the sprint up the beach afterwards. Good to see some national federations allowing their athletes to double up and enter more than one boat class. The nature of the scheduling means that they're able to do that, and not in too quick a succession, because we had the under-19 women's solos yesterday, so they've had an overnight rest before they're back at it now in the under-19 women's double.
Just wondering if you're able to pronounce the hashtag for the event, Pete. Bring on the waves in Welsh.
Oh, I do wonder. Oh, goodness me. We'll need to get Caris on the case. Digwicariton now. Well, I'm sure
that won't
if somebody
be how you
wants
say it, I'm
that
sure.
won't be. But I would love it if somebody listening in. Here we go. We've started. Yeah, send us the phonetic or get in touch with us on social media. But we're underway now with the second quarterfinal of the under-19 women's double. Quick start for Canada.
Oh,
that
wow.
was really quick for Eleanor Sati, getting in there and joining Alexandra Duggan. See Bunshu trying to get the boat up to speed. In Germany, made the better of the start. It's a disastrous start
disaster
for
for
Canada. They've come off the seat. That's Eleanor Sati off her seat. She's had to turn all the way around to try and get it back on the runner.
Oh, no.
Oh, disaster for them. That's going to be race over. She's getting back in the boat now. Boat handlers trying to come and help pivot the boat round. I can't see how they'll recover from this. This is just an enormous lead that they've afforded to Germany now, who are already past the first slalom buoy. They mustn't relax just yet. Oh, look at this. Monica Bundschuh struggling to stay on her seat. Such tricky conditions.
So tough for the Canadians. These two crews were 4th and 5th in the time trial. The Canadians just getting slightly better, but around about the same time. So we expect them to be fairly well evenly matched in terms of the time and their capability. So.
Oh, we've got a problem in the German boat. The stroke woman there, that's Monica Bundschuh. She's off her seat. Oh, her blade is twisted around now as well, and they've gone the wrong side of the second mark. Are they able to get back around? They're backing it down, which is so difficult to do in these boats, and they've managed to get around to the correct side now, but they're pointing in exactly the wrong direction, and this is opening the door for the Canadians to get back in the action. So at least Germany won't get a 30-second time penalty for missing.
Oh no, and I think
point.
In the Canadian boat now, the bow has come off her seat again.
I don't believe it. But this is opening back up. Look, they're level. Or not yet. We don't have Alexandra Duggan back on her seat yet. She's had to turn around to put it back on the runners. She's going to have to recover her blades. Sati doing her best to get the boat going again. As long as they don't tip in, that would be race over.
Oh no, this has just been disaster, this race for both crews.
I can't believe it. Canada, we're getting back in it, and then we've lost the seat there. She still hasn't recovered her blades because they're locked back now that there's boat speed. They'd be better to stop rowing so that she can recover the blade and actually get some boat speed back up. Germany now round the turning point and making their way back in towards the beach. I thought we might have seen Canada back in it.
And Eleanor Sati in the stroke seat, just trying to keep the boat moving, staying composed. Eleanor trains and lives near Toronto.
I can't believe that. That was so close. We had them level again, but it took such a long time for Duggan to get her seat back on. It's no fault of her own.
She's not on her seat. Her seat's completely off.
Oh, the Germans are tangled up on the buoy. Could this race be filled with any more technical difficulties? I think every single problem has been experienced here, and we've got the bow woman in the Canadian boat not on her seat, so she's doing half strokes, and we've got Germany just trying to untangle. They're now back up to boat speed. I don't believe it. Is there any sort of technical problem that hasn't been experienced in this only 500-meter race?
Oh my gosh, wow. It has been full of thrills and spills.
I'm saying nothing about the beach landing until they're both all safely foot on the floor and race over, but there's only 40 meters left before Germany make landfall, and Canada, the bow seat still off her seat. You can see her sitting half a foot shorter than Eleanor Sati as they come past the first slalom buoy. I think Germany are going to make it onto the beach first. Fingers crossed that it's a clean exit for them. Canada on the crest of a wave, but on the wrong side of it, so I think that's just seen them, any boat speed they had built up diminished immediately. Germany on the beach now, so we're going to see Eliza Roma for Germany press the buzzer and seal a place for Germany into the semi-final. And goodness me, I don't know how any of these crews made it through that.
Huge round of applause here for the Canadians.
Such a tough race there for the Canadians. Absolutely devastating. She pulls out her seat and throws it to her boat handler.
Yeah, just look at this, will you? There'll have been something said there. Not obviously what I said, but oh, it's so difficult when you've got technical challenges like that. But that's sport for you, isn't it? I mean, that's what makes it a difficult and challenging game. You can't always have it perfect. Let's have a look at some of the highlights. I can't imagine which parts our producers will have been able to pick. There was so much.
So this was trying to get out through the waves. Oh, Eleanor loses her handle there.
And that's Germany missing their turning point, backing it down. And we know what it's like trying to back down these coastal boats because they've got a slipper stern, which means that if you back it down, water just comes up the stern and you lose any kind of... You basically can't do it. It's very difficult. You can see how much lower Alexandra Duggan was in the water. We're jumping straight into the third of the quarterfinals now, though. There we have the start. This is Miranda Torres Puyante and Paula Blanca Espinosa Linares for Spain, alongside Aniek Buscom and Caterina de Croo de Jong for the Netherlands. And it's the Spaniards off first.
Wow, Spain absolutely dynamic off the beach there and through those waves. They're about a length ahead of the Dutch, who are just getting pounded by a couple of waves coming into the beach there. But Spain, what an incredibly strong program they have in coastal rowing and in beach sprints.
Yeah, they've got a good high rate of strike. All just getting bounced by some big rollers coming in. They're up over 40 strokes a minute, and it's paying off for them. Let's see how the Netherlands are cracking on. They're at 38 compared to Spain up there over 40, around 42 strokes a minute. Now they're having to adjust to get back on course, and that's opened the door for the Netherlands to move up and draw level.
And we got a great shot there of the Spanish boat handlers desperately steering their crew. So the boat handlers, as many of you watching would know, are a very important member of the team. They're the only people allowed in the field of play aside from the athletes, and it's their job effectively to help the athletes get in and out of the boat. They protect and look after the boats at the beach, but they also, very importantly, steer the crews while they're out on the track.
Coming out to the turning point now, not much separating them as a big set of waves comes in, and no issue for these athletes to tackle them just yet. See who takes the more aggressive line around the turning buoy. I think Spain going very, very close to the buoy, already turning. Netherlands a little bit more of a measured approach to it. I'm not sure that's going to pay off just yet. Spain have already spun and now looking to get the boat back up to speed. The Netherlands now 3 lengths or so behind, still trying to complete the turn.
Yeah, bit wide, a bit slow on that turn, which has really given the Spanish a foot in through the door, and the Spanish now have a lead which is fairly strong at this point in the race. We know anything can happen, so we won't inflict them with the commentator's curse, but Spain looking strong at this stage.
Yeah, they look great out in front, and a good clean line. You can see that this is a crew, and you can just tell by watching them, who have great amount of coastal experience. You know, they've been out there in all sorts of different wave formations and conditions, clearly similar to what they're experiencing right now, because they're just able to handle it so expertly. It's not affected their navigation. We know that these boats are designed to spin more easily. That makes it more difficult and more challenging to keep straight in wave formations like this. And that's where the experience and skill set of highly experienced coastal rowers is just absolutely demonstrable and more easily seen. Let's see how they handle the dismount. It's going to be a tricky one for them. Blades pulled in. I think she's got enough of a margin here, as we see Miranda Torres Puyante making her way up the beach, and this will seal Spain's place in the semi-finals. A great performance from them. They look the class act out there on the water, and deservedly so, progressing through to the semi-final, where they'll face either France or Great Britain. We'll find out which based on the next semi-final. Good performance from the Netherlands. They had no issues. I think they raced the best race they could have hoped for there. You know, it's, as long as you have no technical issues, you can actually walk away from a race and be at least pleased that nothing got in your way of giving it your absolute best. So let's have a look at the highlights here. Rolling out through the waves on the way out. No issues at all. Some real bouncers though. See the bows absolutely burying themselves in the next wave, and that's what causes the issue for the athletes keeping on their seat, because as their body goes up, their boat goes down, and the seat goes wherever it wants to. And the last place you want is it for it to come off the runners, because if it comes off the runners, then you've got a real challenge on your hands getting it back on. For those that aren't familiar with rowing boats, the seats do have a little clip on the underside that's supposed to keep them on the runners if your bum's not on it. But if it slides all the way to the end of the runner and rolls off the end, that's when you have the real issue with getting it back on. Last of the quarterfinals getting itself set up now. 1 minute to go, because the boat handlers have been told to put the boats in the water. Francesca Villalonga and Alice Almansa for France lining up against Isabel Lancaster and Elizabeth Seckinger for Great Britain. Lancaster doing the running for Great Britain, Almasa doing the running for France.
ready. Attention.
And a little bit of a stumble there from Almassa from France. But she's away now through the waves. In fact, first to the boat.
Different strategy by France and Great Britain. Great Britain holding their boat a whole length further into deep water than France, clearly trying to take advantage of the running stage, but France off to a cleaner start. They're a full length ahead already, so a good quick start for them. Let's see how they handle the approach on the first slalom buoy.
Yeah, tough conditions. It's getting really choppy coming up to that first mark. Both crews safely past that first mark, but maybe the French with just a length lead.
Yeah, a lot of calls being made by Elizabeth Seckinger in the bow seat of the British boat, and she's lost her seat. Is that what's happened? Yeah, she's trying to get it back on the run. A disaster for her, the athlete from Wycliffe College Boat Club. Looks like she's recovered it, and they're going to get their boat back up to speed, but it's lost them 3 or so lengths. They're already in deficit to the French.
Over by any means. Yes.
Oh no, and the French are the wrong side of the mark.
That's disaster. They're just going to have to keep going. It's a 30-second penalty for them. That's opened the door for Great Britain to take the lead. They're backing it down because they want to go back around it rather than incur the penalty. Impossible decision to make. You don't know how long it's going to take you to get back round. Is it more than 30 seconds or is it less?
They would have been probably better off, in fairness, to cop that penalty, I think, than trying to get around it.
Yeah, they could be here for another minute or two and still get the penalty.
Here we go. They've got their bow the right side of it, so they'll take off now. They are allowed to hit the mark, but your hull must pass on the correct side of it. So this is the second junior women's double that we've seen. We saw the Germans a little bit earlier go the wrong side of that mark as well.
And do you know what? The wave formations are coming in on the diagonal now. So after they go around the first slalom buoy, it helps them because it's pushing them to the right of it. But when they try to pivot back round to the left of the next one, you've got the diagonal wave coming in, pushing them, continually trying to push them to the right. And that's the second time we've seen a boat miss that second slalom buoy. Now, I don't want to hold my breath or try to predict what's going to happen because Great Britain is still out in front, but anything can change here. Even though the lead is about 50 metres, all it takes is one small technical issue and that diminishes to nothing.
Yeah, I think the British just tried to get themselves on a little runner there, saw their boat sort of load up, and actually I think they're on it.
Yeah, look at that boat speed. It's absolutely rocketed. They've got really good boat speed here. Can they hold it, though? That's where the skill in this coastal discipline comes to the fore. Isabel Lancaster of Bradford Amateur Rowing Club, Elizabeth Seckinger of Wycliffe College Boat Club. They've lost the runner, but that has earned them quite a bit of boat speed there as they come to the last 40.
Huge advantage, hasn't it, Pete?
Big time, big time. Let's see how they handle the dismount then. It's going to be Elizabeth Seckinger for Great Britain doing the run up the beach. I think they've got a safe enough margin here to try and just make sure they don't incur an injury, because that's one thing they've got to be aware of. We saw some injuries yesterday where Elizabeth Brizamorano caught her hand, but this is a great race. Elizabeth Seckinger for Great Britain making the run up the beach, securing them a place into the semi-final where they'll face Spain, and that means they're into the final four. USA and Germany in the first of the semi-finals, and Spain and Great Britain in the second. And despite a great start for France, I think it was that second slalom buoy just spelled disaster for their race. But a valiant sprint up the beach here, Francesca Villalonga closing out their event here in the Under-19 women's double. So we'll progress in quick order now, because we're going to jump on to the next semi-final shortly, but let's have a quick look at the highlights from this fourth quarter-final.
So the French were absolutely dynamic off the beach. They really got out into that race very quickly, but then this was the fatal mistake. This is taking the wrong side of that mark, and then rather than taking the time penalty, they elected to try and correct that position, but it probably cost them more time than the time penalty would have taken.
Yeah, and it's It will have been delight for Seckinger and Lancaster, because they'll have thought that was race over for them. And then when they rowed up and passed the second slalom boy, saw that they were rowing past the French, they'll have realised they were still in with a shot. So good result for them. But we're going to go on now for a quick chat with Camilla.
Well, I'm here with our first semi-finalist here in the under-19 women's double sculls. Monika Bunschu of Germany is with me here. Monika, have you been watching these previous quarterfinals and taking anything from them?
Yeah, the conditions are very hard, so it's important to turn around often and look what the waves are doing.
That's very good advice. And Annalie, you're here representing the USA. Obviously, we saw your boys double earlier take home the silver medal. Again, have you taken anything from that and the encouragement from Team USA?
Yeah, definitely. We have a super encouraging team, so we're just trying to stay calm and bring home the gold.
Wonderful stuff. Well, look, best of luck to both of you here in the semi-final of the under-19 women's double sculls, going for a place in the gold medal final.
Yeah, great to hear from those two. Monika Bunschu in the German boat had a few issues. And that was the race, of course, that had just about every problem that you could possibly imagine going through it, and Bunschu and Roma came out the better in the end. So their next run in with the course, the right question, just to see are they going to learn or take anything different into this next race. And I think it's just going to be have a clean race at the core of everybody's hopes and dreams when they set out onto the water. Walking the boats down, this is Annelies Haal for the USA. We just heard from Annalie Duncombe, who's up there ready to sprint down and join her. And we'll see Alyssa Roma for Germany holding her boat in the water to await Monika Bunschu to join her on the sound of the buzzer.
Get ready. Attention.
Oh, another long pause there from the umpire, but we're underway with the first semi-final for the under-19 women's doubles. A quick sprint from Monika Bunschu. I think she might get to their boat first. Oh no, the USA gets started first. I think they're in much shallower water here. Look, the fin will be dragging through the sand at that stage, so it'll be a little bit trickier for them to get the boat speed up. Germany started out in deeper water. They've got the best of the start, although they're just clattered down by a wave that took all of their boat speed from them. They had a length up. That's now down to half a length after that wave, as we see both boats coming up towards the first slalom buoy. USA with a better boat speed. They're drawing level now up to the first buoy.
Whoa, big wave there that comes through. The Americans more or less made them just stand still there as the Germans then passed the first slalom mark on the correct side and first. The Germans learning from their mistake in the previous race and really making sure they're going to be on the correct side. As Pete said, the waves and the way that they're coming onto the beach make it really a bit problematic with the steering. So it's actually one of those occasions where the athletes don't want to be too close with their line because it's too easy to get a wave and all of a sudden be on the wrong side, which can be a disaster. So the Germans taking it very safely this time, passing well more than an all-length clear of that marker. But they come through before the Americans and they're going to lead into the top mark, and it's going to come down to the turn.
Yeah, this is amazing. The Americans, I think, have the better boat speed when they can get a few clean strokes together. Germany, slightly slower boat speed on the whole, but they're managing to just get more and more clean strokes through. So they approach the turning point first. Let's see how they handle this rounding.
Well, perhaps the Germans, interesting, they took, even when they were still level with it, they took another stroke to get past it. So clearly not wanting to get caught up on that mark, but probably needed to take one less stroke, I think, to ensure they could really pass around that as efficiently as possible. But the Americans also not really getting around as efficiently as they would probably like, because the Germans are, in fact, opening up the lead now.
Yeah, Germany collided with this second slalom buoy that they're just passing now, and it doesn't look like they've come near it, but they're just getting pushed around by the waves here.
Yeah, Germany struggling a little bit with those waves, but doing a really good job to stay in control. You could see their bow get lifted up, and it's when your bow get lifts up on that wave that it's really hard to stay in control. But I think there, Pete, was it the Americans catching a little bit of a runner?
Yeah, it looked like they were just on it, and for a moment there, my heart was in my throat because I thought they were going to get spun round and lose it and be pointing right off course. It did see them close the margin down on Germany. It's around 2.5 lengths now of clear water separating them. Germany are going to make beach or landfall first. I thought the USA were going to close that gap down if they'd managed to hold that wave.
The Americans just on a little wave now. It's really propelling them into the beach, but their bow digs in. Their bow dig right in, and they're sideways. They're perpendicular to the beach. Disaster for the Americans. Here, they're sort of floundering in the wave zone, unable to get their bow onto the beach. They're straight again now, but the Germans now coming up to the buzzer.
Yeah, what a race from Germany. They just had that tidier race and slightly slower in terms of boat speed, but just managing to maintain it more consistently. Great effort from the USA here as we see Annalise Hall making her way up the beach to press the buzzer. She knows that they'll be progressing through to the B final, so they've got another opportunity to leave here with a medal where they'll face either Spain or Great Britain. And it's Germany going through to the A final. We'll find out who's meeting them there in the gold medal final in just a few moments, because next up is that race between Spain and Great Britain. And we've got Camilla down on the beach, ready to talk to a couple of the Spanish athletes, but let's have a quick look at the highlights first from this first semi-final. Oh, properly washed down there, the American boat. There's a big wave crashing right over the bow. And Germany had slightly slower rounding, but cleaner again. They just had a much cleaner race than their last one in the quarterfinal, where it was just that race of technical difficulties all round for Germany and Canada. So they'll be pleased that they didn't face any technical issues in this race, and that sheer consistency is what's seen them defeat the USA and progress on to the A final. Now, Camilla's down there on the beach with athletes from both Spain and Great Britain.
I'm here with Spain and Great Britain, who will be in the next semi-final in the under-19 women's double sculls. Paula, the Spanish team have been so great at reading the waves. Is that something that you practice for?
Yes, because in Spain we have a lot of sea, so we can practice a lot the waves, and if you know how to manage, you could do it better.
No, we've been really impressed by that. And just for you, Isabel, you've been training just around the corner in Tenby. Has that prepared you for these kind of conditions?
Absolutely, we've been on water like this before.
Amazing. Well, great stuff. We'll get you ready for your final. Best of luck to both Spain and Great Britain, who are going up for the head-to-head match to make it into the gold medal final.
Second semi-final due off in just 2 minutes' time, so they don't have long after their interview to get their heads back in race mode. Isabel Lancaster, there we were just chatting to, alongside Paula Blanca Espinosa Linares for Spain. And it's a place in the A final that they're gunning for to try and face off against Germany, determine whether they'll come away with the gold or silver medal. I can't imagine, Sarah, what you think the conversation with the coaches will be here, but it's surely just keep a clean race together.
Yeah, it's interesting because although these conditions are providing challenges, they really are perfect conditions for beach sprint. I mean, this is exactly what you want. A little bit of difficulty, a little bit of wave action. It's absolutely perfect conditions. The waves aren't, too big by any stretch. So this is what we're here for.
This is what we're here for. This is what makes the coastal discipline so exciting and so challenging.
Get ready.
Here we go. Umpire calls them to readiness.
Attention. Go.
There we go then. Lancaster racing against Espinosa Linares down the beach to join in the Great Britain boat Elizabeth Seckinger, and in the Spanish boat Miranda Torres Puyante. Let's see how they get themselves up to speed here. Great Britain opting for the slightly deeper start, but Spain take the first few strokes absolutely rapid. You can tell that they've been practicing that beach start. Clattered by a wave. Is it going to cause any issues? No, it slowed the boat down. That opened the door for Great Britain to draw back on terms. There's a canvas separating them as they come up towards the first slalom buoy.
So Spain hitting that first slalom buoy first. Oh, and we've got a stop there in the British boat. I'm not sure what's quite happened. Starting to get their rhythm back together. But that's just given Spain a pretty clear run to get themselves into the lead. The British really seem to be struggling with the conditions. They're getting quite knocked around by some of those waves and trying to get their steering back on track.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, they just every time they take a stroke, they bounce around, and the waves, that just smashes their boat speed down to an almost standstill, which makes this such a challenging course, because when your boat has no momentum, each stroke is like a max effort deadlift to just try and pull the boat back up to some sort of rhythm, some sort of momentum. And it's Spain that's going to get to the turning point first. You can see the enormous margin they've got here. It's 30, 40 meters already. How's Spain going to handle this? They do go and steer clear of the turning point without overshooting too much. So I think it looks like a good clean rounding for them. And Spain just so technically proficient. I just can't see them having any issues with the waves on their return leg. They've just really expertly dealt with the waves as they headed out into them. And look here, they're on a bit of a swell there on the way back in. Will they get on top of it and manage to surf it back? Not quite, they just roll off the back of it there.
Spanish getting a little bit of a runner here. They're going to have to be careful that they keep their bow up out of the wave ahead. This is where we've seen crews get unstuck, is riding a wave and then their bow ploughing into the wave in front, which is exactly what's just happened to the Spanish. They're more or less dead still at the moment, grappling to get their boat speed back. The British now with a little runner.
You can see what happens when your bow's down, the water can't wash out the stern, so you're that much heavier, that much more laden with weight, and that makes it that much more difficult for you. They're going really wide into the beach. They're quite a long way off from their flag. Oh, and Great Britain have had a boat stopper there, just passing the first of the slalom boys on the way back in. I think Spain have got the clean run in now, and it's almost certain victory for them. What a performance. I mean, they had a clean run all around, and you could see they just technically dealt with those wave conditions like real experienced athletes. They've been out in water like that many, many times over, and it showed. That's the buzzer pressed. Spain go on to the A final. That means they're certain of a medal. The question is whether it'll be gold or silver, and we'll find out in that A final what colour it'll be. That means Great Britain have the hardest of the progressions now, because they go straight into the very next race, the B final, where they'll face the US of A for the bronze medal. Tough work for Great Britain. A few issues there with missed strokes, but I think it was just those difficult conditions trying to get their boat up to speed, certainly in the first 200 meters on the way out. Let's see how they handle the entry. You can see Great Britain in slightly deeper water than Spain, opting to just be that little bit further out. But Spain just have such a fast way of getting into the boat, getting those first few strokes done and building up the boat speed quickly. Because once it's up, if you do hit a big wave, you can carry a little bit of that momentum through it. But if you're still not up to race pace and you hit a wave, it crashes you to a standstill, and then you've got to start all over again. That's where those little short, sharp strokes are just so effective, and the Spanish deploy so well to make it work. So that's the last of the semi-finals done. We've got a 5-minute or so break before we come to you in about 8 minutes' time for the B final of this under-19 women's doubles, where we'll see the USA face off against Great Britain for the bronze.
So folks, we've got two finals coming up. The first will be final two, which is the bronze medal match, which will take place at 12 p.m, so just a few moments time. And then final one, which is the gold medal match, that will take place at 12:18. So don't go anywhere, just a few minutes to go until we'll see the fight for the medals in this under-19 women's double sculls.
just as we are waiting and getting ready for the final two in the under-19 women. So it will be starting at 12:12, so just a few moments time. So while we're waiting, I just want to say a few thank yous. The volunteers, the officials, the technical people, all the local community, all the groups that have got involved to make this competition so special. We are here on the final day of the World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals, and everyone has worked so hard over the last 2 weeks to make sure that this event has run so smoothly. So a big thank you to everyone. Fiona Chinese is made sŵn arbennig yma y technegion a'r criw allan ar y dŵr yna. Criw diogel, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd am ymroddi ar gyfer y pencampwriaeth arbennig yma. It is amazing to see such support here on the beach in Saunders. But the racing will kick off now in the next few moments, and we have a full afternoon of racing ahead. So after the final of the under-19 women's doubles, we will be straight into the first of the victory ceremonies of the day.
Final B, United States of America, lane 1, Great Britain, lane 2, 3 minutes.
Going up for the bronze medal match in the under-19 women's double sculls. Isabel, you had a few technical difficulties in that last race. Is there anything that you've learnt from that?
Just keeping calm and carrying on with stroke going after the other, not stressing it.
Yeah, no, and look, you recovered really well. And Annalie, you look really cold, bless you. I mean, is there anything that you've been doing to stay warm and stay recovered in this break?
I actually just got a hot cocoa, so that's been pretty nice. Putting on jackets and kind of huddling.
Look, I'm sure getting out there and sprinting down the beach will warm you up, but hot chocolate sounds great as well. Best of luck to both of these crews in the bronze medal matchup. Great Britain and USA going head-to-head in just 2 minutes' time.
Thanks, Camilla. As we get ready for this next race, we're going to have the B final between the USA and Great Britain in the under-19 women's double scull. We are moments away from that race getting underway and seeing who will be taking home the bronze medal.
Well, as the tide really gathers pace on its retreat down the beach, the wave conditions just getting harder and harder as we come towards the end of this morning's session of racing here on the last day of the 2022 World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals. B final now, the penultimate race of our morning session, the bronze medal final. USA's Annalie Duncombe doing the run down for the USA against, I believe that was Isabel Lancaster, who's been doing the running, the starting run for Great Britain. Isabel Lancaster of Bradford Amateur Rowing Club will join Elizabeth Seckinger of Wycliffe College Boat Club.
Attention. Go.
There we have it. We're underway with the B final here, the bronze medal final, as our two athletes sprint down to the boats. Let's see how they're positioned, both pretty in equal depth water. Great Britain alongside the USA. Who's going to get the first stroke or two in? The USA first to get started.
The USA pushing out to about a length lead. I love watching these boat handlers, really bodies on the line, throwing their whole bodies into the surf to try and help propel the crews forward. You can see them steering their crews now.
Great Britain have managed to draw level with the USA now. It took them a little while to get the boat up to speed, but once they've got it, They should be able to hold on to it. The USA doing their best to get it back up to speed as well. A few crashing waves rolling through, just sees their bow duck and dive, and that just slows everything right back down again. Let's have a look at the line they're taking towards the second slalom buoy. I think they're relatively level, approaching it. Quick peek over her left shoulder from Annalise Hall in the bow seat of the USA boat. Good trajectory from both crews, but I think Great Britain just starting to edge ahead slightly.
Yeah, Great Britain with about a canvas lead over the Americans. But we know so much will happen as they come up to this mark rounding and, of course, on the run home. Coming up to the turning point now. How will these crews go as they navigate around this turning point? Their boat handling will be so critical coming around this mark. They're basically locked together here as both crews hit those turning points and start their turns. Maybe the Americans just slightly ahead in their turn.
Yeah, both of these crews in the previous rounds taking that turning point much wider than the other crews. And the USA took it wide, but they just had a little bit of a faster spin. And look, they're on the top of a wave now, and that is seeing them rocket forwards. Look at this. As long as that bow doesn't dive too deep into the water and see them pivot round. Oh, it's disaster.
No.
Look, she's caught her blade in the stroke seat. Annalie Duncombe. Can they recover and get back up to speed? Because that little rocket booster has earned them a significant lead. They've got about 3 lengths.
And it's really tough, Pete, because when your boat starts to gather momentum like that, you need to bring up the rate. And you don't often know. I know that I've had the feeling where I thought, oh no, I'm not on the wave, so I haven't done that. And then you realise, oh no, actually I have, because you don't have very good perspective when you're on it. But it's really important to keep the rate up. But the Brits here, their bow absolutely nose diving in to the waves here, as are the Americans.
Yeah, the Americans on a wave. They spun them right round. Look at this. It's disaster for them. Great Britain are going to come cruising past now. If they can hold on. No, it's happened to them as well. Both boats pivot round. Unbelievable. The Americans have recovered and are heading back towards the beach now. They're straight on. Great Britain struggling to recover now. Oh, that saw it tighten right back up again, but it was exactly the same issue. Their stern spinning around as their bow was caught in the previous wave, and this now sees Annalise Hall for the USA sprinting up the beach. They're going to take the bronze medal in this under-19 women's double event. What a performance from them. It looked like it could have been all over with that wave, but the USA take the bronze medal here ahead of Great Britain. A great performance from the GB crew. They'll go home with a 4th place finish in the rankings for the 2022 World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals.
Great work by both crews there. Problematic conditions for the boats, it seems.
It's so hard, that, isn't it? I mean, you're trying to catch a wave, you're trying to do your best to get on top of it, but then you just see your bow. It just shows the wavelength between the peaks of the waves is quite narrow here. That means when your stern's raised up on one, you have your bow piercing down into the wave in front of it, and then what happens is the stern spins round, and it's just so difficult to get that right, because we were hearing that these boats have been designed to turn easily, and that's great when you're trying to do the turning point at the end of the course, but it means that when your bow is trapped in the wave, that same turning capability, the smooth, wide underside of the boat, means that they slip sideways down from the wave so much more easily. So it's compromises, benefits in one place and a compromise in another, but that's where the technical proficiency and skill of these athletes comes to the fore, and their experience in coastal conditions is everything for how they handle that. This is that exciting bit where it looked like the USA had stacked it and Great Britain might draw level for an exciting finish, but Great Britain faced exactly the same problem. Look at their landing here. Exactly the same things happened. Their sterns spilled them both out of the beach, and it was Isabel Lancaster, who did the starting sprint, who managed to get up the beach first. Of course, when it comes...
I'm here with the finalists for the gold medal match in the under-19 women's double sculls, Germany and Spain. Monica, the beach is getting longer and longer. How do you rate your sprinting skills?
I think it's okay, but not perfect.
And I'm going to ask the same question to you, Paula.
Yeah, me too, but I think that, well, the same as she.
And how much of a part to play does that have in this race?
I think it's important to start fast, but I think it's more important to handle the waves in a good way.
Yes, I think the same as she. The waves is too important, and if you know how to manage, it's perfect for catch a medal.
Amazing stuff. Well, best of luck to both of you. The gold medal on the line here in this under-19 women's double sculls event, Germany and Spain, in just 1 moment's time.
Yeah, we're going to find out who the 2022 World Rowing Beach Sprint Final champion is for the under-19 women's double. Germany and Spain getting themselves ready. I think Germany have faced the most technical challenges so far, so on one hand you might think they've had their bad luck and it's behind them now. And let's say, fingers crossed, that that's the case, and that both of these crews have a clean race, or as clean a race as possible. Bearing in mind, we want to see their technical proficiency in handling these tricky conditions, because that's what sets the coastal rowers a head and shoulders above the rest when we have proper coastal conditions for them to race in. Germany have set their boat up a good length out into deeper water than Spain.
Attention. Go.
Oh, it's a painfully long time, he's told to. He holds them waiting there, but the Spaniards getting down there quickly. An absolute sprinter is Paula Blanca Espinosa Linares of Spain, getting there first into the boat, and we know that they have a very fast start. Look at that, she's barely in the boat before they've taken 3 strokes already. 3/4 of a length up on Germany through the first 20 or so meters.
Some tough wave conditions there to punch through. But the Germans, although they were a bit slower off out at the start, they've actually pulled back a little bit. And maybe they're only half a length down, although they've just collected that slalom buoy there. But it hasn't taken too much time off. I think the Germans have really done well to get through that really quite difficult zone in the shape that they have.
Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, they did this in the last round where they don't have the fastest of boat speed, but they can just, through a high rating, keep moving back and forward up the slide, and they just get the blades in and move the boat forwards. It's, you know, just getting that boat up to speed and keeping it going is what they seem to be so good at. And if you don't have too fast a boat speed, you obviously then don't launch up off the top of a wave as much as some of the faster boats do, and perhaps that helps them handle these tricky wave conditions that little bit better. They're level now with the USA, level now with Spain approaching the turning point. Let's see how they handle this rounding. Spain perhaps actually a length up as they get towards it. Who's going to take the more aggressive line? Spain right in there on the buoy.
We've seen Spain turning really well in all of their boats. They're so well drilled, and this double has been really proficient with that mark rounding and their boat handling. A better turn maybe for the Germans here. They've decided to take a more aggressive turn, but just struggling with their timing together to get up and moving, which has given Spain the jump on them. So the Spanish now several lengths ahead. Perhaps the Germans just trying to get on a little bit of a wave here, but they're bow ploughing into the wave in front. So it's going to be about being, I think, controlled and risk averse on the way in.
Yeah, tricky stuff here. Spain out in front. They haven't managed to catch a wave, and that might be a good thing, frankly, seeing as how we've seen just about every wave that's been caught so far through the last few races has spun the boat round. You can see how these bows are really diving into the wave in front of the one that they're riding, and that sees the stern just spin round. So we'll see how they tackle this.
The Spanish have a bit of a wave here. They're going to have to be really careful. We saw their bow just plough in before. I think they're okay here. The Germans having a few difficulties and really not able to impact on the lead that the Spanish have. The Spanish now safely into the beach, and they're going to take this gold medal in the under-19 women's double scull.
Yeah, amazing performance for Spain. As soon as your feet on the floor, that's it. You know, nothing can get in the way. No more technical issues can hold you back from the performance you dream of. And this is the win going to Spain's Miranda Torres Pujante and Paula Blanca Espinosa Linares. Running out the beach here, we've got Elisa Roma for Germany, taking the silver medal for her and her crewmate Monica Bunchu.
Incredible. 2 from 2 for Spain this morning, taking out the under-19 men's and women's double sculls. Absolutely fantastic racing here as we see Esther Briz hugging her teammate. We saw Esther take the gold medal in the mixed double scull last night. And we have an exciting announcement about Esther this morning.
We do. Esther Briz Zamorano has been elected to the Athletes Commission for representing coastal rowing. So great news that Esther Briz Zamorano, double world champion in the mixed double for Spain, has been elected through the course of this weekend to the Athletes Commission to be the coastal rowing representative. And for those that aren't familiar with it, the Athletes Commission is a group of 10 athletes who represent the athlete's voice at all of the council and commission and committee meetings that take place with World Rowing, that determines the future of our sport. And important stuff there, because this is the opportunity for the athletes to have a voice and say what they would like to see transpire as the sport evolves over many years through many Olympiads, and keeps the athletes at the centre of the sport. And in a few moments we will be hearing from Esther Briz Zamorano. I think Camilla's going to have a chat with her, and a great representative, I'm sure, considering she's the 2-time world rowing champion for the beach sprints in the mixed double, with her partner Ander Martin, who we often see in the highlights reels with his iconic dive to hit the buzzer. He gets some serious air, or he did last year on the fluffy sand of Oeiras in Portugal. He took a big dive yesterday to hit the buzzer. Slightly more tentative, considering the impact on the hard sand down at the low tide mark here on Saundersfoot Beach. But nonetheless, it's just the sort of performance we enjoy seeing, because that's what makes the beach sprint finals so exciting to watch. Next up, though, we're going to have 2 medal ceremonies for the boat classes we've just watched. And before we get to those medal ceremonies, we'll have a quick recap and a nice little highlights reel of what we've seen so far today. Great to see the highlights from this morning's series of racing. We've had the quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals, and the medalists certified or known now from the under-19 men's double and the under-19 women's double. Great performances through the course of this morning. We saw Great Britain take the bronze in the under-19 men's double. The USA take silver and Spain take the gold. And then in the under-19 women's double, we saw the USA take the bronze, Germany silver and Spain gold. So we'll see those medals awarded in about 5 minutes' time. The athletes will be making their way up to the victory ceremony stage. But it's not only tricky stuff out there on the water for these athletes racing, and you can just imagine how difficult it is to put this whole operation on, not only down there on the beach, but making sure that the buoys are in the right place, the starting procedure and flags and all of the equipment you need up there at the start line is right. And then also when it comes to this production, amazing work by the production team here to be putting on all of the camera angles that we've got. We can see great perpendicular views. We've got a drone shot overhead so that we can stay right on top of all of the action. Yeah, amazing performance by all those involved. But we're going to be back with you in a few minutes' time when we see the medals awarded first for the under-19 men's double in a few minutes. Looks like the victory ceremony's lining up now for the under-19 men's double. Great to see some of the local Saundersfoot Community School kids supporting and helping out carry the trays that hold the medals that will be presented to the winning athletes. There we have it, Spain center stage, flanked on the left by the silver medalists and the bronze medalists on the right.
Great Britain.
Bronze medal going to Great Britain.
Great Britain.
Medals being awarded here by Frida Svensson.
Robert Collins. And James Purves Little.
James Purves Little on the left and Robert Collin on the right. Great performance from them to get up on the stage. They saw off the Italians in the quarters.
United States of America.
The USA beat Great Britain in the second semi-final to take their place in the A final. Malachi Anderson on the left, Gary Rott.
And Malachi Anderson. Winners of the gold medal and 2022
gold medalists and the
World Rowing Beach Sprint Final champions.
Beach Sprint Final champions for 2022 here in Saundersfoot, Pembrokeshire, Wales, Great Britain. We have Spain's Ricardo Gonzalez Bermudez on the left and Marcos Delgado Marquez on the right.
Marcos Delgado Marquez and Ricardo Gonzalez Bermudez. Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of Spain.
Boneddigion a Boneddigesau, Anthem Genedlaethol Sbaen.
Well, he said he was going to have a good race, did Ricardo Gonzalez Bermudez. That's exactly what he had. And world champions for 2022 in the beach sprint. Under-19 men's double. The medal ceremony for the under-19 men's double. In a few moments' time, while they conclude their celebrations, we'll move on to the last of the medal ceremonies from this morning's block of races. We'll have the under-19 women's double medal ceremony in just a few minutes' time. Great overhead shots here. We can see the traditional schooner boat that's been built here on the Saundersfoot Harbour wall, the new heritage site that will help to attract tourism to the area and showcase the history of the Saundersfoot and Pembrokeshire area, particularly with the maritime history of the region. And this is the Harbour Lounge you can see on the bottom of the picture, where athletes, friends, family, supporters have been gathering to watch from the harbour wall the beach sprint. Certainly a lot easier to see through the course of this morning's racing. The tide is accelerating its journey down the beach, and it will make its 300-meter journey down by late lunchtime, when we'll get underway with this afternoon's block of racing from around 3 o'clock at the low water setup of the beach sprint course.
Beautiful shots there of the little town of Saundersfoot here in Wales, in Pembrokeshire. Stunning little seaside towns along here. Everyone has enjoyed their time here, and the weather thankfully has been better than we anticipated.
It's been quite volatile, hasn't it? I think that everybody's anticipating it being sort of race-stopping style conditions. We're expecting gusts of towards 40 miles an hour, but thankfully it's not been anywhere like that. We're going to zoom back in on the finish on the medal ceremony stage now for the medal ceremony for the under-19 women's double. Look at that, can you believe it? Spain at top of the podium in both the under-19 doubles. Fantastic performance for them.
The medals will be presented by Patrick Rombo, Chair of the World Rowing Umpiring Commission.
Winners of the bronze medal, the United States of America.
Bronze medal goes to the USA's team here. We can see Annalie Duncombe on the left and Annalise Hall on the right. They saw off the Japanese in the first quarterfinal to make it through to the B final.
It's an excellent mullet on one of those young gentlemen from the local school as we present the medal here to Germany.
Yeah, Germany's Monika Bundschuh is the first to receive her medal on the left of the picture, and Elisa Roma on the right. The silver medalists. They saw off the USA in the first semi-final and Canada before that in the quarterfinal. But here are our gold medalists, champions in the under-19 women's double for 2022. Spain taking the win. Paula Blanca Espinosa Linares on the left.
Miranda Torres Pujante and Paula Blanca Espinosa
It's actually
Linares.
Miranda Torres Pujante on the right. I think somebody's turned their bit of paper the other way up. But they're the gold medalists. So for the second time this morning, we're now going to hear the national anthem of Spain.
Anthem Genedlaethol, Spain.
Let's hear it for our medalists.
Llongyfarchiadau i'r medalwyr.
Well, what a great morning we've had. That's Spain top of the podium twice on the trot for the under-19 men's and women's doubles. And great to see Germany here taking the silver after what was a tricky quarterfinal for them, possibly the most technically challenging race we've seen here in Saundersfoot so far this week. And then, of course, the USA taking the bronze. But that's this morning's block of racing done. There's a brief lunch intermission now before we get underway with racing from 3 o'clock. That allows the tide to recede all the way down the beach to the low water mark, so that we're not racing in the fastest moving point of the tide.
So we look forward to bringing you the remainder of the races this afternoon. We will have the junior or the under-19 mixed double scull, followed by the men's solo and then the women's solo. So those 3 events and the medal ceremonies coming up this afternoon. We will be back on air with the broadcast from 2:50 p.m. local time. So enjoy your lunch break, and we look forward to bringing you all of the action in a couple of hours.